The spate of insecurity in Nigeria has become very embarrassing. Hardly a day passes without reports of abductions in different parts of the country. This perhaps formed the focus of yesterday's National Council of State meeting held in Abuja, the first of such meeting in the year 2022. During the meeting, governors took turns to brief the meeting on the situation in their respective states. The meeting was presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari and attended by past heads of state and presidents, granting state pardon to 159 beneficiaries, including a former general officer commanding 3rd Mechanized Division of the Nigerian Army in Jos and Minister of Communications during the military regime of General Sani Abacha, Major General Tajudeen Olanrewaju retired, and also to former governors Joshua Dariye and Reverend Nyame of Plateau and Taraba states respectively, who were serving jail terms for corruption. President Buhari will follow up the discussions at the National Chief of Service Chiefs Gathering with a meeting of the National Security Council to review the current security situation in the country next week. Joining us now is Major General Henry Ayoola, retired, former commander, Special Task Force, Operation Safe Haven in Jos, Plateau State. General, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Good morning, viewers.
We're commander in charge of the Task Force of Operation Safe Haven in Jos. One of the things we've said about the recent killings in Kanem and Wase local government areas, where you have Operation Safe Haven in place, is that, look, either in Plateau State, or in Taraba State, or in Benue State, where we have had many of these killings, one after the other, the security agencies don't respond. They only arrive after the havoc has been committed. Why is this always the case? We talk about security architecture. The president is meeting with the service chiefs next week. House of Reps says these service chiefs you go because they are the ones benefiting from investment in the security sector, and we are not seeing any results. What exactly do you think is the problem? Slow response, lack of effectiveness, no results, the House of Reps says.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would say, I think I need to start from, off from that. We need to be careful not to fall into a kind of convenient oversimplification of the entire complex system that we run. As a former commander in that place, Kanam local government and Wase local government, Kanam in particular had been one of the very peaceful local governments. I had the opportunity of calling the emir of Kanam to commiserate with him when I heard of this. We also need to remember that the whole operation, Safe Haven, was drawn down. So it's not what it used to be. There used to be sectors in those areas before. I'm not too sure if they have any. Because, of course, for a while, there have been peace in that area. And, of course, don't forget the military is deeply pressed. And so there have been a kind of mobilizing forces from other parts of the country to get enough in the northeast. So I can tell you, even though I'm not holding brief for the current commander, who is also the general officer commanding 3 Div, I know for a fact that the forces that have been drawn down, so I'm not sure they have enough men on ground in that part of, because the crisis has shifted more to around Riyom, Barikin Ladi, Bassa, which is the northern part of Plateau. So, of course, I mean, you don't put troops where you don't solve a problem that doesn't exist when you are actually depressed for more troops. So that's the situation we find ourselves. And that's why it will have achieved so much surprise, because, I mean, it's an area where there had not been issues of ethnic or indigenous settler clashes and all that,
So are we to take from that this was not really a case of complacency, but it was just a shock? Does it now sort of indicate that a new trend is emerging, such that previously peaceful areas cannot be assumed to be peaceful anymore?
Thank you very much. I think you got me so very well. In fact, that was my first reaction when I spoke to somebody from there. I said, this part of the state has been so peaceful. It's not an area where you've been having herders, farmers clashes. It's not an area where you've been having, settler, indigenous clashes. So it tells you that there's a new vista being opened And in fact, the expansion of the theater. And let me say this. As far back as the Kankara abduction, or remember the Kankara incident in Katsina, that's when it became very clear that Boko Haram and its WERP have used the banditry issue as a cover to expand their theater beyond the Northeast. And so you can see it's a clandestine infiltration into other parts of the country without us noticing it and giving it the necessary publicity. And that you could see it happen concurrently with the one in Benue, just following the attack of the train and the airport. And so you could see the concurrent activity. It shows that there is a grand plan of an extension of the battlefront, of the theater, of their operation. And that's something, is a bigger issue to deal with.
So, let me make some inferences. Please correct me, sir. Bandits are Boko Haram. Good inference, number one?
One component of bandits are Boko Haram.
Okay, one component of bandits are Boko Haram.
There are about 5 components of bandits right now.
Some of the 5 components of
Very good. The original bandits were as early as the mid-90s in the Northeast, which was a fallout of the internal crisis you had in those countries in the Sahel. All those days of military changes, of power, and some of the soldiers, the gendarmes and all of that, spilled over into our territory. And what they started then was some paltry kind of robbery on the road just to get by. Stop a few vehicles, get something, and then that's how they survived. That was how it started. That was what brought about what was called Task Force 2.0, which led to the multinational joint task force, which started about 1998. We still have the commander, the first commander of that is, a senior officer from Plateau himself. And so that went on. Then, of course, you find from 2015, where you have an influx of additional people in this kind of category who now began to have to survive by doing banditry. Then, of course, you have a third component that came off from Zamfara, where the Bororos crossed over to Zamfara, and there were clashes between the indigenous Hausas and the Bororo. You had that. Then, of course, you have the fourth component, which is where you find some indigens who just saw, banditry is an opportunity for us to do a quick one. So even for 10,000 naira, hold somebody, kidnap one person and get 10,000 and release, jokingly like something to play with, Then, of course, the fifth component, which is the infiltration of Boko Haram and ISWAP. And like I said, the first signature of that was in that Kankara case. And you saw that, this was beyond the normal banditry operations. And of course, this last attack of the train was, in fact, I think I put an icing on their cake to show that, look, if you do a quick analysis of that train attack, you will see that they were making a strategic statement. People have asked the question, why Kaduna State is the most militarized or the security concentrated state in the whole nation? Now, the point they're making is, look, if the state that is this secure can be taken on by us, it tells you that the remaining of you are mincemeats just waiting to be run over. Now, the bandits on their own cannot think that high. So there is a grand strategic level they are also responding to.
So is that why they probably said that the president knows what we want with these people they kidnap in Kaduna, that they don't want money, that the government knows what we want, that they should talk to us?
Yeah, very good inference there. But let me put it this way. Usually when you do an analysis of banditry or kidnapping, hostage taking and all of that, there are 5 basic things you want to look at. You want to look at you want to detect. So detection is first. Number 2, you want to, attribute, to say, these are the people who did it. So detection, attribution. Third, you want to be able to identify the motives. Why are they doing it? And in their own case, the first 2 is easily done because there was nothing hidden as to who and what, But the motive is what they want. That's what you are saying, what they said. Now, usually there are 2 categorizations of motives. Either it's instrumental, in which case they are just doing it for a purpose of getting money or some material gain. Or it's expressive, in which case they are doing it to voice some grievances, in furtherance of some advocacy or something. Now, in this case, you can see there's a mix of the 2 from what they have said. But this is actually the first time they are coming out to say it plainly. It's been implied all along. If you do For anybody who knows what is going on, that implication have been there. But they have come out for the first time to say it plainly that, look, it's not money, even though that also, you need to interrogate the altruism of saying it's not money they want, because, I mean, they still collect money all the same. Of course, I mean, having more money with this, nobody's averse to having more money. So even if that's not the main motive, at least still a tangential motive.
But they said the government knows what they want. Can you interpret that statement for us?
Yes, that's where I'm going. You know, when I talked about the fifth component that came in 2015, okay, and so the question then is, why were they brought in? What was the purpose? Have they fulfilled the purpose? Why are they still being tolerated? If they have fulfilled the purpose, why not return them to where you brought them from?
Who brought them in?
Oh, they just said it. Okay. They just said it. If they don't have any contact. No, but you can't take off from Nigeria and go to South Africa without invitation, without knowing anybody there, and then start causing trouble there. And then the government of South Africa will just be looking at you.
Okay, General. The government spokespersons claim repeatedly, consistently, that government is doing its best. Right? But the Northern Elders Forum doesn't think so. The Middle Belt Forum doesn't think so. The Christian Association of Nigeria does not think so. The House of Reps does not think so. Arewa Christians and Pastors Association of Northern Nigeria also don't think so. So why is government still insisting that it's trying its best and that we are on top of the matter? The Minister of Defense said, we are on top of the situation. The Minister of Information said. Who is saying the truth here? General?
Yeah, again, it comes to those who are in government, there are certain things they have to say to encourage the rest of us. Not only the citizens of the nation, even the troops that are in the field. You see, management of information is very important when you are a leader. Sometimes it's not because you really want to tell lies. Sometimes because it's a necessity not to allow the morale of your troops to go under the boot. You know, so you have to manage the reality and then what is pushed out. You know, so for that I can give that to them. But of course, everybody knows the reality on the ground. You know, being on top of the situation is just a simple language. You know, it does not mean that you are in control. If you are in control, then how did we get here? You know, so I mean, it's obvious to everyone that there's more that can be done. That's why those who are shouting are shouting. And I think the issue is very clear. Even from what the bandits say, it means there's a question of, have we done all that can be done? I mean, in international law, there's what we call the doctrine of every effort. That's the premise in which countries, receiving countries, are responsible for the protection and the safety of diplomats from other countries in their nation. That case came up in the U.S. In the attack of U.S. embassy in Iran, because you have that responsibility, and you have to prove that you have put up every effort, and they all failed before you can be absolved of that responsibility. You know, so it's a similar thing. I've been in your station in Abuja a number of times, and we have said several things that can be done. I wrote papers before I left service in 2015, but after I came back from Operation Safe Haven, I did an analysis of Boko Haram, and 8 essays of profiling Boko Haram. So there are 8 components of Boko Haram. So far, as a nation, at best we have been attacking about just 2 components out of these 8. If there are 8 facets of a thing, and you have been attacking only 2, I mean, that tells you that you really have not given it your best bet yet. So that is obviously there. There have been all kinds of, grooves and suggestions from other experts, and so the question now is, have we put all together? How much of this as a government? In fact, at the point I said, well, I'm tired of appearing to suggest anything, because you're not too sure who is really listening, or if anybody is listening at all, or those who ought to act on them. Because I've made sure I passed on the papers I wrote to subsequent service chiefs, NSA and all that, so that they can have it up front, because they are not things to be discussed in the open. So they can have them up front and at least find something usable among the suggestions, and recommendations. So, of course, there's more we can do. There's more we can do. And we need one major thing, and I think it's the main solution. We need to quadruple the political will to deal decisively with this problem.
So this lack of political will, are we going to attribute this to malice willful complicity in the destruction of Nigerian lives and property, or is this sheer incompetence?
Good question. I will say it could be a combination of many things. Again, for those in government, we have to give it to them. There are certain things they know that we don't know. They have more access to information, to intelligence, which may not be in the open space, and so there could be some hindrances here and there why they can't take certain steps or certain measures. We wouldn't be able to say that. But it's a matter of weighing the odds and see which one is more important, to maintain the status quo or to go all out and deter, degrade, defeat, and ultimately crush the bandits as a whole. Again, I've said that before, that if you put all the bandits together, I just told you about 5 identifiable components. If you put them together as one single whole, you will not be able to deal with them decisively, because you'll be given the same. It's like giving one single tablet to the person that has headache, stomachache, some other things, and say, oh, it will solve all. No, it won't. You have to desegregate them and look at the ones that are actually giving us the trouble. Identify them, isolate them, and deal decisively with them, degrade them, crush them, defeat them, and then you can then move troops from other areas to get a concentration of force to do that. And once you do that, then you can move those troops past to other areas where they are needed. Because the fact that we're overstretched is obvious, and we are not going to ever have enough troops to do all. There are too many security challenges happening on all fronts concurrently. It has never happened like this before. At least I've been in uniform. I started from the military school in Zaria, so I've been following security of the nation from 70s till now. So I've never seen it this bad.
You see, sometimes when you say you can't have a pill to fit all, I just remember this popular Yoruba medicine called Bubunishe.
Bubunishe.
Sometimes you feel like you had a Bubunishe. In this case, because a lot
is laughing at the way you're calling it.
Because a lot of people are dying too much bloodshed. And the shocking part I also want to ask you, General, is we keep pointing to change of service chiefs. That's the problem. The service chiefs that just came in, we're already talking about changing them. We've gone through many service chiefs, but the problem persists.
Yeah, thank you very much. That tells you, in workshop practice, that's what we call diagnosis by elimination, where you want to diagnose what is wrong with an equipment. So you eliminate what is not wrong, okay? So that eventually you get at what is wrong. Sometimes you have to do that. But that's what I saw us doing. You see, I was on severally during that time of the last service chief. And because the last chief of defense staff is my bosom friend, my classmate, my brother. In fact, we are twin brothers to the extent that people mistaking us.
No.
Okay. Okay. So you find people thought that I didn't want to talk because of him. But the truth is, I know that that's not the problem. If you change service chiefs 1,000 times, nothing will change with what the real issues are. We're not touching the real issues. It's like you're going around the issues and then you are touching the things that are peripheral, that are of little or no effect, knowing fully well yourself that this will not solve the problem. But of course, you must be seen to be doing something. So you are doing a number of things, That's what we've been doing.
What are the real issues?
I've touched on them already. You see,
if by way of summary.
Yeah, by way of summary, if we look at
these are the real issues.
Usually in the military parlance, we call it center of gravity. If you have an issue, a battle issue, even typical normal problem-solving techniques, you identify what is that key issue that when you hit that, it brings the solution. The rest will just fall in place. Okay? I said it in my last time on one of the outings that, look, we can talk about, what service chiefs should do, what security services should do. What are we doing about the real enemy, the real adversary? Deal with the adversary itself, and then all the other issues will not exist.
Some people say the real adversary is poverty, unemployment.
No, those are excuses. Poverty has always been there.
Okay.
Some of us start from very humble beginnings. In fact, the children of the poor used to be the most disciplined people in those days. I'm sure Dr. Abati can bear me witness to that. Because they will tell you in Yoruba, not your humanity once you remember whose son you are. And that keeps ringing in your head. So when you're about to join your friends to do one bad thing, you remember, my parents said, remember whose son you are. And you quit. So that cannot be unnecessary. There will always be poor people at any time. That's not to say we should do nothing about, ameliorating poverty and all that. No, of course, it's an ongoing thing. But those like, what Yoruba say, you leave the leprosy and you are killing the lapa. What's ringworm. That's what we're doing. It's like we are being pound foolish and penny wise. Even some of the major steps we have taken, we know. I mean, if you are going to acquire weapons, for example, you know what that weapon will be doing on the battlefront. How much of the problem in the battlefront is that weapon helping to solve? You know that up front. So you can do your prioritization and say, okay, I need this more than this. And since I don't have all the money I need, I think I better take half of this and half of this. All these are done. So unless, of course, you have some other ulterior motives why you are taking the one you are taking, maybe to give to drive home some points, or to be seen to be doing something. So there are, and war in itself is inherently very foggy. That's what we call the fog of war. The vagaries and the vicissitudes of war, so that it's not like 1 + 1 is equal to 2. There are too many uncertainties and the fluidity of war. So when you put all that together, it's difficult to say, if you do this, you get this. But of course, on the average, there are things that you can analyze that way. And then, of course, the combination of them all will give the kind of solution you want. So it's a choice. It's a choice. And I always say this, that war, it was Clemenceau, the former president of France, who said that war is too serious a business to be left to the generals alone.
Yes.
So politicians decide war, to fight or not to fight. But once they decide, the generals should be left to decide the means and ways and methods of executing the war. But where you now look down over the shoulders of these generals to determine the means and ways of fighting, that's where you have problems.
What do you make of calls for Nigerians to arm themselves and defend themselves against terrorists?
Yeah, for me, that's not a new call. If you remember, this same Minister of Defense has said it once, about 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean, I always refer to Article 51 of the UN Charter that talks about the inherent right of individual and collective right of defense. It's a natural law, it's a divine law, it's an inherent law, it's a spontaneous. When something bites you, you don't need anybody's attention to hit the place. Like your Bible says, if an ant is climbing through your leg, you can care less. But when it bites you, your hand automatically goes there. It's a natural thing. So of course, but that's not supposed to be. I mean, it's an expression of loss of confidence in leadership when people come to that point. Because that's why the state was formed in the first place. That's the concept of state, to protect everybody. If not, we'll be going back to the state of nature.
The state has
yes, the Hobbes say, where life is short, brutish, and all that. Yeah. We don't want to do that. The government must be able to play its own part.
Mercenaries, what do you think about mercenaries?
Yeah, I laughed when I heard that first talk from the governor in Kaduna, because if a state does not have the power to have an army, then how can you have the power to invite mercenaries? I mean, they don't go together. Yeah, of course, every nation needs help. Even these advanced nations we see.
You think we need mercenaries quickly, because we're wrapping up?
Yeah,
help.
Anything that will help us solve this problem, I'm for it. No option should be taken off the table.
Thank you very much, Major General. We've enjoyed this conversation very much indeed.
Thank you.